community is composed of the collective stories, history, and heritage of its people. It's important that everyone has the opportunity to share their story and be heard. The Community Oral History Project creates community space for people to come together to share and learn about the history, heritage, and traditions of our communities, highlighting what we share in common. Community can be defined by location, or community can be considered a collection of people bound together by shared experiences. My name is Emily Jones Hudson, and here are these stories.
My name is Jeff Sturgill. I was born in on April the 1st, 1962, and I live here in Hemphill.
Okay.
And I've lived in Hemphill most of my life.
Okay. What was it like growing up in Hemphill?
Well, it was good. My dad, he was a coal miner. He died of black lung and problems, connected to working in the coal mine most of his life. My mother was a stay-at-home mom. I have 5 brothers and sisters, and I happen to be a twin. My mom had 2 sets of twins. I have a younger set of twin sisters, and they were 6 of us, like I said, and we considered how we were raised, and families making it the best they could. We had a good life as children. Our parents took good care of us, and now I'm a father and a grandfather. I'm getting old. I have a set of twin daughters, and I have an older daughter. They're Jessica and Jennifer is my twins. Amanda is my oldest daughter. They're all, living good lives. They're educated, and they're doing a lot better than I did when it came to my education. I'm proud of them.
Okay. Do they live around here, or where do
Yes.
they live?
All 3 of my daughters live within 2 miles of me. I have one of them that lives in Whitaker. That's right outside of the little town of Neon. I have one that lives there at the Neon Junction. That's close by. And then I have one that lives down at Whitesburg.
Okay. What was your parents' names?
My mother's name was Murray, and my father's name was Bobby.
Okay. And you said he was a coal miner.
He was a coal miner. I've been told tales about, my mother would tell me, is when they first got married that they lived with her mother and father, and her dad and daddy would leave in the morning and start walking to work. Did not get home till way 8 or dark because they had to walk back from work. Then when my dad, later on in years, my dad worked, he worked about 24 or 25 years for Southeast Coal Company. And then he went and worked a couple years for Beth Elkhorn. And at that time, Beth Elkhorn was striking quite a bit. And my dad thought he was spending more time at home than he was working, so he turned around and went back to Southeast, and that's where he was working when the night that his last shift of work, they had to call an ambulance to the mines and take him out in an ambulance. That was his last shift of work, and he run a miner most of his mining career. You know, later on up in years, he run a miner.
Okay.
And like I said, my mother was a stay-at-home mom.
Okay. What do you remember about your grandparents?
Well,
Their
my
names?
dad's dad, my grandpa, was Edgar Sturgill, and his mother was Rosie. And I remember them. My grandpa was a big man. He had a nickname. They called him Chief. And my mama Rosie was a little woman. From the time that I was small, she had a stroke, and she got around on a walker as long as I can remember. She was a little woman, and when she let her hair down, her hair would drag the floor. And when we used to stay with them a lot, one thing I remember the most of her, other than her cooking, she was a real good cook. She used to cook into the Kona grade school, not far from here. Years ago, and a lot of the older people knowed her, you know, from when they went to school there, where she was a cook. And I remember sitting on her bed when we were little, and she would have us comb her hair out for her before bedtime, and that hair would lay all the way down on the floor. I remember that. And my grandpa, he always joked, and he would go pick blackberries and raspberries and stuff. She would make cobblers, and she loved to cook. And the other thing I remember is she fixed breakfast every morning, and where she struggled with walking, you know, she would sit at the chair at the head of the table and ate her breakfast. And she always made a full breakfast every morning: gravy, biscuits, and just a great breakfast. And ate her breakfast. Me and my brother would have to wash the dishes. One of us would wash, one of us would dry, and we'd have to hand it to her at the head of the table, and she'd inspect it. And if it passed her test, we put it in the cabinet. If it didn't, she said, do it over. So that's just a few things I remember about them. And then my mom's mom and dad, my granny on my mom's side, that's what we called her, Granny. She was more quieter, and I remember they had in the summertime when we'd go there, you know, my grandpa, he'd raise a garden, and they had a big long porch that went the length of their house, and they'd all sit in them chairs and spread them old towels and sheets in their lap, and they'd break up beans and string beans, all of them. And I remember my grandpa across his yard, in one of the neighbors' yard, was a big strawberry patch, and he would pick strawberries for the neighbor, and the neighbor would let him pick strawberries, and my grandma would make strawberry preserves. And every Sunday morning or Saturday morning, we'd have that big breakfast, and they would be a big gang of us children and there and everyone. And I remember them strawberry preserves and them homemade biscuits. I know a lot of stuff goes back to food, but I remember it. And my grandpa, the other thing I remember about him, he was as long as I could remember him, he was white-headed, and he wore, when he went out, he wore his cowboy hat. He would wear either a black shirt or a white shirt with the glass-looking buttons on it, you know, on his jeans, his cowboy boots, and he dressed Western style, and he strung on a banjo all the time. When he was at home, he'd sit on the porch or in the living room, and he'd string on a banjo, and he loved wrestling. He would watch wrestling, and he would really get into it. And
what were their names?
Lonzie and Virgie. was their names, Monsey Johnson and Virgie Johnson.
Okay. And where did both sets of your grandparents, where did they come from?
My grandparents, my dad's mom and dad was on a place called Camp Branch. It's here in Letcher County. It's between Weisberg and Neon. It's not too far from either places,
Okay.
and it was on Camp Branch. They lived in a little holler over on Camp Branch. And I remember when we were boys, every evening, when it got supper time, my mama cooked all the time, and she cooked dinner every evening. And my grandpa would say, "Boys, tell me and my brother Jack, say, boys, you reckon you ought to go get us a dope." That's what he called soda, was dope. He'd say, "You boys go get us a dope." And back then, they were the big 16-ounce Pepsi bottles. There's a little store down at the mouth of the holler, and it was about a mile, probably about a mile walk out of the holler. So every evening we'd walk down there and we would get that. He would want to make sure we had a Pepsi for our dinner. And my grandma, she would say, "Make sure you bring me some smoothies and Mellow Cups." She loved, her two favorite candies was smoothies and Mellow Cups. She loved them. And then my mom's dad and mom, Virgie and Lonzy, they lived on Long Fork, or Spate. A lot of them calls it Spate, Kentucky. We all call it Long Fork, the right-hand fork of Long Fork. It's probably about a 20-minute drive from here. You go across what they call Long Fork Mountain and go down Rockhouse Mountain. Then you'll cut and go across It's not very far. I can remember when we, as children, used to go over there, and it stayed just an old gravel road across the mountain for many years. And now, it's a little hardtop road. It's a lot better to travel, but I very seldom. I haven't been over there probably now in about 2 or 3 years. I don't go over there much anymore. And about I'd say it was about 4 or 5 months ago, I had to take my dog to a groomer down on Camp Branch there. And when I dropped him off, I thought, well, I'm gonna go up here and ride up in the holler, where my grandma and grandpa used to be. Now it's a little hardtop road. Back then, when we walked out of the holler, we was walking out of a little creek bed. The cars would travel it, but it was a little creek bed, and we'd walk it barefooted and stuff. We had a big time when we was kids back then. Then, my dad's brother lived close to them at that time over there, and their boys, we'd all stay up there with each other at their house and stay at each other's house, and we always had a big time.
Okay. You said that everything comes back to food, and what are some food traditions in your family? Any recipes or dishes that seem to be handed down, or
not that I can remember. It's just I've always been a little guy, real thin and stuff, but I am a pretty big eater, and that's like at my grandma's here at the community center. Gwen's biscuits, she fixes breakfast every Saturday morning, and her biscuits remind me of my grandmother's on Long Fork so much. They made the big biscuits, what we call the cathead biscuits. Gwen is a great biscuit maker. And my grandma on Camp Branch, she made little biscuits. And when she'd cut her biscuits out, she would let, with the dough where she would cut them out, she would let us boys roll them up and shape the dough the way we wanted and make those biscuits and them would be our biscuit, because she'd let us shape them. And my Rosie, my grandma, you got to think back. This was when I was real young. I was 7, 8, 9-year old at the time, 6-year old. She made the best cabbage rolls. And that's one thing I remember about her cabbage rolls, and she'd stick those little toothpicks in them to hold her cabbage. And that's another thing I remember as a child. And I just remember how it didn't matter, if your dad was working or he got laid off or what. They always managed to make sure we were well fed, and we always had a big family. And that's right. Like right now today, when we get together for anything, I have 3 daughters. I have 5 grandchildren. I have 3 son-in-laws. It's my wife's sister and her brother-in-law, and them. And it still is a big family. When we would always get together on Christmas Eve, another thing I remember, we would all, regardless where we went on Christmas Eve, we always got together at my mother's house earlier in the evening on Christmas Eve to be with my mom and dad and have all of our children and grandchildren. And their house wasn't very big, and they would be so many of us. We would be in the kitchen, in the bedrooms, in the living room. They'd just be so many of us. And that's one thing that is great about having a big family, is when you get together, you get so close, and you got so much love and stuff. And it's just great. And I try my grandchildren, it's learned me a lot. Maybe I do too much, maybe I don't do enough, but there's nothing I say no about when it comes to my girls and my grandchildren. I try to be a good dad and a good granddad.
Would you say that you, when you think about your, family traditions and history and heritage and stories, how do you pass that down to your children and then their children?
Well, one example is, I'll give you, and I'm not very proud of it. When Halloween was coming up, years ago, it's not like it used to be. Corn night was a big thing. Different people call it different things. Around here, we called it corn night, and that's when we would get out and do our hanging toilet paper and messing around and stuff, doing things we shouldn't have been doing. And I tell my girls sometimes, then I tell them, I say, I don't tell you all the things I did because I don't want you to do those things. I said, it's, and the other thing, it's not like it used to be. It's something that I look back on that I always loved is, in the mornings when we would get ready for school, we would all go up to the top of where the road was, the school bus stopped. And we would have children there from 4 or 5 different families. We would have, I was telling you earlier about the twins, Buck and Ross, and how Buck gave me my nickname Monroe. And me and Jack were twins. We had Buck and Ross was twins. Their sister, Tamara. Then I don't remember Michelle so much, but Michelle was there. And you had the Vanovers across the highway from us. You had Jill, Bill, and Tim. They were there at that bus stop. We had the kids, the neighbors down from us a little bit. We had the Halls. We had Sheila, Diane, Ben, and Dave. And at that bus stop every morning, it was actually a fun time, a big time. And I can remember there between where we would stop there that there was a little grocery store there where we stood, Nettie and Tip James's grocery store, and they was at that time they was a chestnut tree, and those chestnuts would fall, and we'd pick those chestnuts up, and we'd take us some chestnuts to school with us in the morning. I remember that, and back when us kids got out to play, they were always 8 or 10 of us together, always. And you don't see that anymore because you got the bus, the way that the kids just don't get together and the way they're spaced out, and the way that the parents is out taking them and to school and picking them up. But when we were younger, that was a fun time for all of us kids.
Yeah. What was the name of the school that you went to?
We went to school right here at this building. It was the Hemphill grade school, and it was from kindergarten up to the 8th grade at that time. I went all 8 years of school here. And,
okay, all right.
So I've been around the building ever since they shut it down. They had the community center here, and they had the senior citizens. I've been here, and I've helped out in one way or another, most of the time, because I just live probably a half a mile down the road here from the center. So I spend quite a bit of time here.
Why do you think this center is such an important part of this community?
I think it's because our community is so small, and you take my generation. I'm a 63-year-old now. I'm not old. I'm not young, but a lot of us stayed at home and had work around here at one place or other, and a lot of us went to school here, and a lot of us drive this little 2-lane road. We see this building, and there's been so much going on here, and a lot of us have got children that went to school here. My oldest daughter, Amanda, she went to school here up till I think about the 4th grade. Then Jesse and Jenny went to kindergarten here before they shut it down and combined our schools. And what it was, they had to combine because enrollment got so low at here and other schools. They had to, on account of getting funding into one school, they had to combine them and try to get their enrollment up. Yeah. But
okay.
They was, like I said, we played volleyball here and basketball. Back years ago, in the grade schools, they had track. They had what they had called a field day. They let the schools compete against each other. A lot of things has changed, see, that was local schools, and now, some of our local schools still compete, but a lot of them anymore, they have to compete out of county to other schools, to have schools to compete with, because where they've combined our schools and stuff, and the number of our children, just got a lot lower. Yeah.
Looking at your community and those communities that's like right down the road, what do you remember about segregation and then desegregation, even in the coal camps?
Well, my dad, have talked to us and stuff, and I really wasn't confronted much with it and or anything, which a lot of people says, well, I don't see color. If we're talking, but you can't help but to see color. If anybody tells you that, I think they're not being honest with you. But I think when it comes to the way you treat people, the way you love people. See, my family personally, my daughter and my family, my wife had a best friend she went to school with. Well, she was working in Lexington, and they moved back here. Well, she had 3 daughters. They were biracial. And so she didn't want them to be in school in Lexington. So at that time, one of the girls' name was Heidi. She was the youngest. They were Heidi, Haley, and Hannah. Well, Manda kept Heidi. She was probably 2 or 3 months old at the time when Amanda started keeping her. And then my sister Tammy, Haley started staying with her. She got took up with my sister Tammy. She called Tammy Nana. And that's what Heidi called my daughter Amanda, was a Nana too. And we raised my family as a whole. My sister Kathy, my sister Tammy, and Amanda, my wife Patricia, basically raised those 3 kids. They were living with us when Heidi was living with Amanda, and Haley was with my sister Tammy when they graduated high school. Then they went back to Louisville and Lexington area. And to us, they were our children, you know. We love them. We my family and my dad taught us young. We never had no problem with race, and so that's why I'm saying I really never had to deal with it. I've heard people talking, and I've been insulted by the way some people has talked. But when you play sports, and I never went to school in high school. I went to school with 4 black kids is all we had in our high school, and never had a problem. Never looked at them no different. I thought the world of, and one of those black kids actually married one of my cousins. So you know, I have dealt with it in the sense that from a family perspective, but but any other way, I've never had to deal with it, and I never looked at. I don't look at people. I show no less love and respect, regardless. And my dad taught us that. That's what my dad made sure we understood. Because see, when my dad was younger, and they lived down at Kona, they were several black families that lived. I didn't know it until he told us, down in the Kona area and stuff down there. And my dad worked with black men, and my dad said that one of the best men he ever worked with was a black man. And my dad taught us young. There wasn't no racist stuff in our home or nothing that I can ever remember. And if we were ever confronted with anything like that, it always embarrassed or insulted us, because you know, dad from a young age. And I think us, my family, being in a position with those girls and how much we love those girls today, and we've always loved them. And as far as I can understand, now me personally and my family, I don't know about my brothers and sisters, but I've never dealt with or had it to be a situation or anything.
Okay. What was the name of the high school you went to?
Fleming Neon High School. It's down here at Neon, about a mile from us, from where we're at right now today.
Okay. I've noticed today, Fleming Neon then, and then today, have they separated those names?
Fleming Neon, we have a grade school down here, and it is still Fleming Neon Grade School. you got the 6th through 8th grade, and then from the 5th grade down through K, our kids go to Martha Jane Potter. That's the Kona School. I don't know if you've seen down at the intersection there at 805. And now when our kids graduate from Fleming, the new school we got down at Whitesburg at LCC, Letcher County Central, they combined Letcher High School, Whitesburg High School, and Fleming Neon High School. And C. Jenkins is the next nearest high school, really close in our area, and they're a Jenkins Independent School. They still have their 4-year high school.
Yeah, okay. That's that age-old tale, the city schools and the county schools.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else you want to share that gives us a picture of what it was like when you were growing up? Anything else about your family? Any other traditions? And
Well, one thing that I remember most as a child growing up is our mom, 99% of the time, dished out the discipline. Our dad spoke to us and said, do this, or I want you to do this. But now my mom, she would, when we got out of line, my mom had another way of dealing with it. And that's one thing I remember as a child. My dad, I can't never remember my dad ever having to physically discipline one of us, a spanking or, the way we was raised, our mother would look at us and say, you go get me a limb, if we done something. That was the way we was raised. That was the way they was raised. And my mother was like that. But my dad, he just spoke, and my dad, he was real quiet person, and until you sit down, and if you got him started talking, he'd talk a little bit, but he's real quiet. But now my mom, she's like me, she's a talker, and that's one thing I remember is if we done something we wasn't supposed to do, she'd say, you're gonna get it, and she'd give it to us. But that was, I had a good childhood. And, I was sick quite a bit as a child. At one time, I remember I had spinal meningitis and got real, real sick. And as a younger man, I had problems with my heart. I had to have, heart surgery and stuff. But I was always a sickly child, but Mom and Dad, they always took good care of us. I think we might have had some things we didn't need, a lot that we wanted and didn't need, but they made sure we always had what we needed. Yeah. And they were good parents.
Right. Coming back full circle to the traditions and things, did anybody in your family quilt?
My dad's mom, my grandma Rosie, she quilted and she knitted. And then my Granny Virgie, Mommy's mom, they would, years ago, they'd get together, and the women, would sit, like I said, on the porch and sit in the house, and quilt, and they'd set up their quilting rack, or what you call it, and they made quilt. Back when I was a child, and I'm not that old, a lot of our big warm quilts was homemade quilts.
Yeah.
Most of our quilts was big homemade quilts, and they were handed down.
I was going to ask you about that. Yeah.
That's like when on my wedding anniversary, the ladies Sherritt used to quilt at the center, made me what they called a tack quilt and gave it to me on my anniversary. And my wife, that's probably been 15 years ago. And my wife still uses that on her bed, that little tack quilt.
Yeah. right. What about one last question? What about gardening? Y'all have a big garden?
My grandpa Edgar when we were children now, smaller. He raised a little garden right across the yard over on the other side of the road. And one thing I remember out of his garden, he didn't raise a big garden, but he always made sure he raised tomato tomatoes, because my sister Judy and us kids, we loved those tomato tomatoes, and we would take us a salt shaker and go over in the garden and pull us a tomato tomato and eat in the garden. And my grandpa Lonzy, the last I was, I may have been a teenager, I can't remember, but the last, yes, I was a teenager because I had my license at the time. I was around 16 or 17-year-old. The last time, what I remember about him and his garden, he always raised a big garden. And we backed our truck. I backed the truck into the garden when we started digging potatoes. And we would load that truck up with potatoes and put them in the potato hole he had in the smokehouse. And then we would load up potatoes we was going to bring home with us. And the other thing I remember about him is watching him. He never wore shoes when he gardened, and most of the time when he was out doing anything, he never wore shoes. And I remember, now that I look back on him that he's gone, I remember him being barefooted, and he had a hoe, and here's a short-handled hoe, and he would get down on his knees, and he'd work through them furrows, hoeing on his knees. I remember that about him, and he'd work in the garden for hours at a time. But,
All right.
and like I said, you know, that strawberry patch and how he'd pick those strawberries and bring them home, and they'd make those homemade preserves and have strawberries there for us kids. You know, we'd eat them's some good memories, you know, you don't never forget.
Lisa Vanell Johnson. I was born October 14th, 1961, at Doc Acker's,
Okay.
and that's at Fleming.
Where were you born?
Fleming.
Fleming. Okay.
At Doc Acker's office.
Okay. All right. Fleming. And who are your parents?
Has and Cuba Sloan Johnson.
Okay. And your grandparents?
My mother and parents were Callaway and Nanny Sloan, and my father's parents were Eli and Rebecca Johnson.
Okay. So what do you remember growing up in your community in Fleming?
Well, I was raised in Hemphill, so just up the road. And I don't remember a lot about my mother's parents because they died when I was young. And my father's parents, they were already deceased before I was born. So I went to school at Hemphill for 8 years, and then I went to Neon for 4.
Okay. So what was it like growing up in this community?
It was nice.
Go ahead.
People were good to you. And it wasn't all this electronics back then, you know, it was just books and paper and pencil and all that good stuff.
Yeah. Where'd you go to school?
Right here at Hemphill.
What was the name of the school?
Hemphill Grade School.
Okay. All right. What do you remember about that?
It was nice. I mean, everybody was pretty much good to each other. All the kids were about the same. None of us was too rich and none of us was real poor. We was all about average.
Yeah. Okay. What kind of jobs did your parents do?
My daddy was a coal miner. Mommy was just a housekeeper.
Okay. What was the name of the mines that he worked in?
I
You
don't
remember?
know.
Okay.
He's done retired before I come along.
Yeah. Do you remember any, stories, about him working in the mines? What he did in the mines and...
I think he done a little bit of everything. Mostly I remember the mule. So that's about what I remember.
What about the mule?
I just remember him talking about riding it, and we've got a picture of him somewhere on the mule. So that's about what I remember.
Okay, all right. What else do you remember about, you know, your community and the people in your community? Everybody get along, and
For the most part, they did. And elderly people were treated with respect. Everybody was treated about the same.
Okay.
So.
Do you remember any traditions in your family? Family traditions that was passed down?
Mostly just Mommy's cooking.
Okay, well, tell me
Cooking
about.
and canning.
All right, tell me about that.
Well, she did a lot of cooking, like she made great fried apple pies and stack cakes, as we call them. Some people call them fruit cakes. And she was a good cook. And Daddy, he worked around the house all the time, but like I said, he was retired before I come along. So
Yeah, okay. Describe what, you know, we're getting close to Thanksgiving. Describe what a Thanksgiving dinner looked like when you were growing up.
Well, Mommy and Daddy had 8 children. So by the time I come along, I was the last one. So Thanksgiving and Christmas and Easter was all big dinners. And everybody come in, which I've got nieces and nephews that's as old or older than I am. So I more or less grew up with them than I did my regular sisters and brothers.
Okay. Was there any specific meal or dish that, you know, was just a family tradition? Everybody looked for at all the family gatherings. And
The stack cake.
the stack cake. Okay.
And when my sister would come in from Michigan, because she left when she was 16, Mommy always made shucky beans, and I hate them things.
Did y'all have a garden?
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
We had 3 big gardens. I never did work in it because, like I said, I was the youngest, so I didn't have to do all that stuff. The rest of them did. So
Yeah. What kind of things did you grow in the garden?
white half runners, I remember them. And then I can remember Mommy making the shucky beans, you know, putting them on the string and all that. So
Okay. Any other things that you can think of?
Daddy digging ginseng.
Oh, okay. Tell me
He
about
did that a lot. He'd go out and he'd dig ginseng, then they'd dry it, and then he'd sell it. So I lived kind of a boring life.
No. So was that kind of a thing to like supplement?
Yes.
Okay, the incoming
Yeah.
things. Do you remember the commissary and?
I remember them talking about it, but I don't remember
Yeah.
it.
Okay. Did it, anybody quilt in your family?
My mommy.
Tell me about that.
She made some nice quilts. And then some of us girls took it up. We quilt some. I quilted a little bit, but not a lot. But now I had one sister that passed away about 4 years ago. She done a lot of quilting and sewing. She enjoyed it. To me, it's more like a job, but you got it done.
Okay, all right. But that would be something that your mom passed down
Yeah.
as a tradition.
I've got 2 of her quilts that she made.
Okay.
And she made them. She hand sewed them. She didn't use a machine. So.
Yeah. Now, where did she learn to quilt?
I guess her mother taught her. But she got married when she was 16, so she was young.
Yeah. Okay. What changes have you seen in your community from when you were growing up to now? What kind of changes have you seen?
Mostly the electronics. Seems like everybody goes with a phone in their hand.
All right. Any other stories that you remember that, you know, really important to you and kind of shaped who you are today?
No, I remember. Well, I got married one time and I ended up divorced, but I hated to divorce because none of my family had ever been divorced. But that's another story.
Okay, all right. Was storytelling a big thing in your family?
With Daddy, it was. Mommy was quiet.
Uh-huh.
Mommy didn't say a lot.
Yeah.
Daddy, he liked to talk. They talk about when he was growing up and how hard they had it, and which I'm sure they did.
Mm-hmm. You remember any other stories?
Not really.
Okay.
You could ask my sister and she could tell you every one of them, but you asked me and I'm like, I don't know.
Okay. So how long have you been working here?
Probably about 6 months.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I love going in.
Uh-huh. And tell me what you do here.
I stamp the boxes and put them together, and then just this, that, and the other. I hang the shirts up and make sure that all the sizes are out.
Mm-hmm.
I tell them I don't want in the kitchen. I can't cook.
All right. Good. Anything else that you can think of?
No, not right offhand.
Okay.
I'm not a big talker.
Oh, you're doing good. All right. Is there any religious or spiritual practices that you're involved in, or you practice, or tradition passed down?
Well, Mommy was a regular Baptist. Daddy was Church of Christ, so it was kind of... So I kind of take a little bit of both.
Okay. All right. What do you remember growing up? What was it like going to church?
It was fun.
Mm-hmm.
It was fun. Especially when it got around Christmas and they gave you the fruits and the nuts and candy. And I like that part.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that becomes a tradition around that time of the year. Yeah.
My name is Jessica Lee Hall. My birthday is December the 15th, 1985. And I was born in a small town called Whitesburg, Kentucky, and that's located in Letcher County, Kentucky.
Okay. Tell me about growing up in Whitesburg.
I didn't grow up there. I was born there, and we lived right up the road here in Hemphill. So I grew up there. I consider myself to have the best childhood because we didn't have technology. So I think that was made my childhood. I had a wonderful time living right in the middle of the woods. I could stay out late. Back then it was our neighborhood was really trusting. People left their doors unlocked. And I could run to this one's house or that one's house. So it was really nice. Small, tight-knit neighborhood. It was the coal camps where they, when they first opened the coal mines, they put the coal camps in here.
Okay.
And there, it was just a coal town.
Yeah. What was it like growing up in a coal camp?
Everybody knows everybody. Everybody, was willing to help if you needed it. It was a really beautiful, magical place in Appalachia. So,
Tell me about your parents. What was their names and what did they do?
my mom, his name's Joanne Hall. She worked in X-ray and done ultrasound. My father was Walter Johnson. His picture's out here on the Union. And they got for all the Union the miners and stuff. They've got his picture out there. He was shot when I was 4, and it paralyzed him, and he was in a hospital bed the rest of his life. But he's passed away now, so I'm sure he's in a better place.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Tell me about your family life. Any traditions that your family has that passed down through the generations?
We have Bible dollars, and this is like the craziest story of how we got Bible dollars. Is because my papa was a bad alcoholic, and my grandma said the only place you could hide money was in the Bible because it's the only place he wouldn't look for it. So we started a tradition on birthdays and Christmases. We always give a Bible dollar, and we put it in our Bible just to remind us that that's where a thief wouldn't look, And then we also do this Christmas Eve gift and Christmas gift. So we try to be the first ones to say it to one another. So whoever can get Christmas Eve gift, and Christmas gift on each other. So our family does that. So it makes it fun, to who can sneak up and do it first.
Yeah.
Who's got the more clever way of doing it. So
Okay. Now, what was your grandparents' names?
Arnold and Gussie Hall. And Arnold worked in the coal mines. He was a coal miner. He died of black lung. And my grandma, she had a little grocery store, and then she worked as a librarian there at Flemington High School.
Okay. And what was the grocery store's name? The name?
Gussie's Grocery.
Gussie's Groceries. Okay. Yeah. All right. And what school did you go to?
I actually went here at Hemphill grade school up until the 3rd grade, and that's when they took us and we started going to Flemington.
Okay. All right. Anything else you remember about the community itself, and were times hard?
We have faced oppression it's absolutely the oppression, that the things that they have done to us and the way they have tricked us into. They came in here, this was before I was born, and they went house to house and they told everybody, oh, you have stuff that's under your property that's worth something to us. And it's nothing that will take your property or hurt your property, but in the future, we might want what's under your property. And everybody sold their mineral rights for like $1. And nobody knew what it was worth. And so they done that to us. And they destroyed this place with strip mining and putting their gas wells and stuff in. And then if you don't let them they'll pay you to get on your property though, to damage it. They'll pay you about $15,000 just to build a road to wherever they're going to frack this gas. And if you don't do it, they'll go to the neighbors and frack under your property because they own the mineral rights. They can take it. So if you don't let them on your property, you won't get anything. You have they'll go to your neighbors or the neighbor down that will do it, and they'll take it anyway.
Yeah.
So it's just crazy that they would do that, but it gives me a lot of gratitude that we see the things that they have done. We don't choose to be those kinds of people in our lives, that we chose different. And then they done that, and then they built them company stores, the coal mining company stores, so they would pay you the money. And then you'd have to spend all your money back with them at the company store. It was just crazy. And they segregated, and we had a bunch of different nationalities here, like 43 different nationalities. And now they've like hid it under the rug to where you could ask somebody, they were like, well, I didn't know that there was that many nationalities here working in the coal mines, and then, they segregated everybody too. So it's just, they've done a lot. And they done that. And then they broke everybody down in the coal mines. They got them all broke down to where they couldn't barely go because their backs was hurting. They bulging discs, and then they brought their peel mills down here and started prescribing everybody medicine, pills, pain pills. Got everybody hooked. And then one thing led to another, and they were like, they get hooked, and they were sharing it with their family, and they got them hooked, and now everybody's going to these peel mills. And then they're like, well, I think it'd be a good idea to shut the coal mines down. So then they shut the coal mines down, all the coal mines down, and decided that these people should just sell their pills, and that's how they were going to make their ends meet. That's how they're going to make a living. And the only thing Hal Rogers would offer us a couple years back was a prison. So they've done us really wrong. Yeah. I don't know why they would do us that way, but they have. But no matter what, they can't take the beauty. They have took some of the beauty of this place, but the magic and how we have a trauma bond, really, from what we've been through. So.
Yeah. How would you describe your cultural background?
Cultural background,
like your heritage.
I don't really have one. I've been asked that before. I'm just a really spiritual person. I believe in miracles. I don't really have a lot of culture. Probably more if I was leaning towards a nationality or whatever. It'd be more Irish and Scottish. That's where my family comes from. They're Lockharts. So we knew oppression then. We were taken over by England, you know. So it's like it's been a long line of oppression. Yeah, I don't know why God's put us through this, or the maker of miracles is what I call him, because I don't have a name for him. But I say it because that's other people understand that when I say it. But see, I've lived in the shadow of the valley of doubt my whole life. I doubt this, I doubt that, but he's put things right in my face to where I'm like, there's no question about this, that there's miracles that happen. Where are they coming from? Yeah. You know.
Okay. What do you like about your community the most?
I used to like things about it, but after the opioid epidemic, it's hard. I mean, we still try to band together, some of us, but they're very few.
Yeah.
That try to, and all my generations have died from drug overdoses or incidents, wrecks from being intoxicated or something of that nature, and or they're still so gone and lost from that they can't.
So what would you say, thinking about this generation today, what can you say to inspire them after everything that's going on? What words of inspiration can you give to them?
I would say two things. It would be that if I had not, this is just advice. If I had not made my own world, surely I would have died in the world of others. And I would tell them that a mistake that makes you humble is worth more than an accomplishment that can make you arrogant.